One of the most important things that you have to determine from looking at your data is what graph to use when. And data such as this, which seems like neither of these are the independent variable, and both of these might be the dependent variable, but data such as this can be used with a scatter plot. And this is where you are taking two measurements, and you're trying to see if these measurements have some sort of correlation, not causation. And you can read more about that on the web page for scatter plots. But I'm going to highlight the data. I'm going to click Insert, Chart, and what Google spits back at me is not so bad, but there are some changes that I would like to make to this. So, number one, I know that in this class, my instructor is anal retentive about having data labels. So the first thing I do is open up the chart editor by using this ... And I also go to the customize setting of the chart editor. And as I scroll down, there is a tick mark or a box for data labels. But when I put the data labels on, this data label here for 400 obscures the dot for another data point, and these over here aren't even visible. So I have to remember that I am in charge of where the data labels are placed. And if I come down to position under data labels, I can open up this drop-down menu and I can decide where the best data label placement is. And I think the best data label placement is left or right. But it doesn't matter. Each one that I choose, I'm not getting the data label for this one data point that's all the way up here by 600. And I have the power to change that. I can change the range of the x-axis. I can extend it to 210, 215, and that will let me see the data labels for these 2 points much better. So I'm going to come back to the Customize menu, and it looks like this, and I'm going to scroll down and go to Horizontal Axis. And when I scroll down, there is an area here that says, hey, why don't you tell me what the minimum and maximum value should be? And, sometimes you have to play around with it. You might have to see. Your first inclination might be to plug in 250, but that leaves so much of the graph over here with nothing on it. So I think 210 might be the best option. And actually now at 210, I can see all data points. I know there's a little overlap, but I can see all data points and I can see all data labels. My other problem is that I think I need to fix the x-axis too. But before I do that, there is something to note here that there's a lot of empty space here, right? I could designate 200 as the minimum of the x-axis. And I also realized that I need to extend 600. So if I come back to this Customize menu, I see there's also a choice for vertical axis. So I'm going to open up that, and I'm going to scroll down to the minimum and maximum. And again, I might need to play around with the minimum and maximum to find what shows the right data point. I can also designate that minimum at this point as 200. But look at how each one that I changes the orientation of the graph. So I may need to tell Google Sheets, all right, let's keep the increment on the graph as 100 over here. But I want to see from 200 to 700. And again, there's no right answer here. You can change your graph according to what you may want to see. Oh, that's not right. But you can change it according to what you find is a visually appealing display. And notice how changing the x-axis spreads the data out a little more, allowing me better access to the data points. So this view that you have right here is great. But there is one more thing that I should add to this chart in order to see a better correlation. And that thing is called a trend line. So if you open up the series option in the chart editor menu, and if you scroll down, there is an option for inserting a trend line. And now a trend line is not something saying this is like a line graph that we've made, that this is an independent variable, and this is how one varies with controlled changes in the other. Here with the scatter plot, what we're saying is, no, there's not controlled changes. I measured this, and I measured this, and I want to see if there's some trend between the two of them. Now, for this one that I've plotted here, there's definitely a trend. As yolk mass increases, egg mass increases, or vice versa, either one. But I also see that there are some groupings, that it seems that values down here between 380 and 445 tend to have a yolk mass between 150 and 160. I also see another grouping of data here, and possibly another grouping of data here. So it's not enough for me to just say that yolk mass increases with an increase of egg mass or vice versa. It's important for me to also point out these groupings of data. There seems to be not only a correlation, but also data sets within the data set that I took. So all of these things and the choices that you have to make are important for seeing the data labels, for controlling the axes so that your data doesn't get smushed, and also for inserting this trend line to say, I do see an increasing trend between these two sets of recorded data.